Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to start putting in the values. Now, before I actually start shading, I'm going to be putting in where, if you look at the source material, where the lines of the shadows and the cast shadows are. That's going to be the first thing. So, like I've said many times in both this online class and in my face-to-face class, you don't want to spend a lot of time doing a bunch of shading on something that is wrong. So before you start putting all that value, all that time and effort in there, what you want to do is you want to make sure everything's correct first. That's why we'll do the shadow lines first. Now, what I'm also going to do is this is my structural line drawing. I'm going to lighten some of these lines up a little bit. I'm just dabbing my eraser. It's making the rig shake a little bit. Dabbing my eraser so they're just a little bit lighter. Okay. Something like that. That'll work fine. There. Okay. And now I'm going to start adding those lines of shadows and going on from there. Okay, so I'll speed this up now. Okay, so now as you can see, I've drawn in the lines where the shadows are. Okay, now as you can see, we've got a line here, here, and along here. Okay, notice too, okay, the form shadow. A form shadow is a shadow that is on the form. Okay, we've got a form shadow here, and look at where it meets the cast shadow. Okay, when you are doing your drawing, look for where the form shadow meets the cast shadow. Okay, if it's on the ground plane, they should meet somewhere. Same's true right over here. We've got a light side and a shadow side. Okay, and that cast shadow goes off on an angle from this shadow side right here. So there's a form shadow right here and a cast shadow right there, and they meet right there. Okay. Now let's see. I'll just do this right here. There is a form shadow that is from this being cast, but there's also an additional cast shadow from the sphere. And it's meeting just about the same spot. So I've got another shadow line along there, and there's another one right along in here that's actually would come from this side over here back. Okay, so those lines are all there. I've also got sketched in some additional lines that are from the drapery that the basic shapes are sitting on. Okay, so now we'll start. So that's the next thing I would do is I would start filling in all the value. Okay, so that's what we're going to start with next. Okay, as you can see here, I've got all my values pretty much worked in. I could probably go in and refine a little bit more with, well, as you can see, I've been using a charcoal pencil primarily, along with charcoal stick for larger areas of gray. But I tend to work in detail either with the charcoal pencil or the smudge stick. The smudge stick works really good for moving stuff around and getting and smoothing out some of the rougher lines you might make with your charcoal pencil. I also use my finger quite a bit too. That's whatever's handy. So what you want to look for when you're putting in these values, okay, is you want to look for, like right here, highlight, okay? There's a highlight, and then there's an area that's just sort of what we call just surface light or light. And then there's the shadow starts, okay? That's the form shadow. Okay, the form shadow, and then the cast shadow, right? So you're gonna have your form shadow, your cast shadow. Then what you're gonna have also is behind here, we got a shadow core here, which is the darkest part, and then behind that is what we call reflected light. Reflected light is exactly what it sounds like. It is light that just basically is bouncing off of the surface behind the object and shining back on it. Okay, and that's how you can really create volume by building up your values. Is creating areas of light and dark. Okay, notice that we've got a shadow core here, a shadow core here, another one right here, and there's reflected light on the backside of each one of these. The only one that doesn't really have a shadow core is the cube, but the darkest area is probably this leading edge right here. That would be the darkest, and so be right along this edge, then right immediately behind it, it kind of lightens up a little bit. Okay, so you want to keep that in mind when you're shading is, look for the darkest, not just the shadows, but the darkest areas of the shadows. Okay, and figure out how to depict those. What I like to do is I'll draw in a line, okay, on an object on the shadow side, and then I'll kind of blend away from it, creating the shadow. I was doing that quite a bit. And that's what you'll have in, when you have one light source, you've got a light side and you've got a shadow side. Now, even if you have reflected light on your shadow side, it's not going to be nearly as light as your light side. So keep that in mind too. Okay. All right. So I think that'll probably do it for this video. So that's what you need to do this week is you've got your structural line drawing that you did last week. So go ahead and, lightly sketch in where your shadows are going to be first, and then start putting in your values. Okay, just like you saw here. Okay? See you next time.